I fell in love in Paris, in the city of love, but does love really exist in one city more than another? Is love transportable? Can we lift love up and move it? Can we cut love up with a knife and parcel it out, corral love, or confine it? Moving to Paris is the dream of the masses. The idealization of Paris is romance, all-enveloping. Paris is surreal. The city itself is a dreamscape. My first few days in Paris were unexplainable. The human body was not built to process the amount of awe that this city inspires in me. Dreams can be tricky, however. Paris's beauty is unrivaled, the exclusivity, the beautiful people, art, the food, and culture. But this leaves Paris feeling so ethereal, that dreamscape, that it feels hard to touch things or feel like you're truly experiencing your surroundings presently. And often, once you realize you're in the dream, it can be difficult to wake up, suffocating almost as you can only make it back to reality just before hitting the ground or by some external insignificant noise that breaks you from your slumber. What about Paris prompts people to release their inhibitions? Why in Paris does it feel that love is on an accelerated track? Maybe it's a sense of fulfillment. I live in the cultural capital of the world. Am I now more worthy of love in Paris than if I had lived in Roma, Milan, or London? What about the United States, in Nebraska, Missouri, or South Dakota? Cultural connotation with each city shapes how we interact with people. Nobody travels to the Midwest to find love, and why is that? It is simple, that to experience the Parisian love story, one must be in Paris. One must know what the Parisian love story is, or at least have had the idea drilled into their head like a loud little bug. The idea of Paris is a fairy tale that we are so often inclined to believe. And it is a fairy tale if you choose to pursue love in a way that abandons all sense of self. Similar to the Palais Garnier, it is not just the physical space that's on display, it is the people as well. Getting kissed in a busy metro station or a well-lit and yellowing Paris street turns us into part of the city. Maybe love is accelerated here because what people crave most is not romance, but to feel belonging, and to confidently be a part of something like the million singular threads that make up a sheer curtain. To kiss in Paris, really, to hold hands, to tussle hair, and to rest your hand in another's back pocket of their blue jeans. This makes you a spectacle. You're putting on a show. You and your love become a monument or landmark that people travel across all oceans to get a glimpse of. By becoming a player in this Parisian love game, we make sense of our place in the city, mostly because the fabled city of love is all we know, and without it, what would Paris be to the outsider? If Paris is the city of love, then how come it feels so isolating, at times brutally honest and confusing? My running thought is that no other place in the world requires love as a national prerequisite or something that is essential for full assimilation and immersion, for true enjoyment. We all certainly need love, but it feels like oxygen here. It is aspirational, it is coded into our fulfillment when living or visiting this nauseatingly romantic city, this lovely beast that chews people up, sweeps them off their feet, and spits them out. I think that Paris fatigue, the same condition that sends people to the hospital, can only be experienced by lonely people. And Paris is awash with lonely people. My American heart prefers disattachment. To be alone is to be comforted and to be safe. But it came to a turning point after trying to make sense of Paris's lovely reputation, where it was no longer about walking the city as a flaneur, with no expectation, no plan, and to be unseen. It became about needing to share Paris with another. Forget being a flaneur, being seen is essential to become a facet of Paris. Pursuing the city of love, expectation kept this dream alive for me. Picnicking over the Seine with the people you love or with your actual lover becomes like showmanship for tourists on river cruises to Gawkat and remedies the fleeting thought that maybe Paris isn't the city of love. Nay, no, there's no other place in the world where public embrace is a method of survival against self-doubt and against the feeling of displacement that comes with living here, moving here. I loved here. A boy my own age named Mateo. He told me in French that my eyes were so blue he felt like he was drowning in them. I think in the end he did. He told me he loved me, and he did. As much as two people with opposing languages can convey. He called me by my nickname Benny because his English R's came out like W's. I called him Papillon because of the butterfly tattooed on his sternum. He also had Je t'aime inscribed across his wrist so small I didn't notice it until a week later. We called each other many things, but never by name. I had met him after a boîte de nuit unexpectedly closed, leaving me and my friends with nowhere to go. Then it started to rain, those fat French raindrops that flood the dip in the dirt by my open window. At the nearest bar is where I met Mateo. He was talking with my friend, which isn't uncommon. When I go to bars with friends, it seems like they're the ones doing the talking, unless I do too much talking. My friend told me to come over and showed me that Mateo had used Google Translate to write, "He is very beautiful. Is he free?" He didn't speak any English, so I relied on my years of French class that never seemed to help in conversation, and my body, which seemed to help a lot. It was no longer than 10 minutes later when I left the bar with him to brave the rain because Mateo told me he knew a place. He did. It was a karaoke bar called Rive Droit, hidden in the Marais. He introduced me to a girl named Isla who preferred to speak with me in French because the English wasn't coming out right. They were co-workers, and she was a lot like me. She loved to sing, but never on stage. Mateo sang 3 songs, one in Italian, and the other was a gamey call and response French song that everyone knew and everyone was out of their chairs. The 3rd song I forgot. It was in English, and every English song sung that night would have been considered popular circa 2014 America. Isla taught me that a Monaco is a beer with limonade and grenadine in it. When it was time to order another round, I asked for the same thing. She was so lovely, but I could tell she was uncomfortable with the lack of conversation happening at our table. Mateo's other friends were not so patient. When the Rive Droit turned on its lights and started sweeping the floors, it was time to go. We all left at once, and Mateo introduced me to the others. The first to say anything to me was slender and tall, and that always seems to make me feel short and stout in proximity. He said, "Tu parles bien le français?" I replied, "Oui, je peux parler un petit peu." He sneered that was probably the only French I knew, that sentence. At least I could understand his French jabs. A guy with glasses reassured me that he could tell by my pronunciation that I probably knew more than that. Mateo and I slept together, and in the morning he showed me as he deleted the dating apps from his phone. I showed him the same. He asked if I was serious, and I said I would be gone in January. This sped things up. He took me to another bar called Les Fontaines, which I had recognized was close to the restaurant he worked at. In the weeks to come, I would ride the metro with Mateo to Le Marais and watch as he hopped the gate to avoid ticket fares. Mateo told me that to make ends meet in Paris, he had to work as a server, a barber, and as one of the men who worked on the hot airport tarmac. Les Fontaines was more outside than in, one of those bars where no one stands and fully lit up in red, which gave the city a lovely glow. The table with Mateo's friends had room for him, but refused to present an open spot for me. I told him I would leave, but he took me to another table which felt too big compared to the intimate cafe setups of l'Onzième arrondissement. We smoked, and I drank a Monaco, and I knew his friends were watching me. That night, Mateo unknowingly ashed his cigarette onto my jeans, which I had to pay €7 to get the stain out. Mateo stays very close to the people he loves. He was constantly making and receiving calls from his friends, roommate, or his family, and he put them on speaker. I always tried my best to understand his French. When he was with me and his mom or grandmother called, they always said that they were excited to meet me, that I was a beau gosse, a pretty boy, and that my French was improving. Mateo's mom said I looked a lot like him. When his dad called, they would fight about the possibility of Mateo getting another job. When his roommate called, Mateo would roll his eyes and fight with him too. His roommate, whom I met, was very posh. He was a performer. I can't remember if it was something physical or orchestral, but he was someone who created a lot of mess that they didn't intend on cleaning up. He told me his roommate acted cold towards me because he was jealous of me, but I never got the sense that he wanted to be with Mateo at all. Mateo, who would call me 3 times a day, ask, "Ça va, je te manque, tu fais quoi?" and then hang up. By any other circumstance, our relationship was moving too fast. And with the added obstacle of a language barrier, loving Mateo felt more like falling in love with the idea of love with a Parisian and my hopes of becoming fluent in French, the French that his grandmother had told me I spoke well. I was in love with Paris. I loved how unguarded I could feel to say I loved someone and to have a city convince me I meant it. On this accelerated track, I was not self-conscious, or rather, conscious of self. We fought so often about a lot of things. It helped my French get better. It solidified that passion burns brighter in Paris and has a stronger perfume. Selfishly, I loved that we fought because it felt like we were eating each other alive, ravishing. He didn't understand why I need to take medications to work right, and why having someone in my space for too long turns me red, and how there's a specific place for everything I own. He taught me the word for toothpaste was dentifrice after I'd complained that he used all of mine. Mateo wrote me a love letter, but told me it was from my point of view written to him. It's like he smeared what he thought was my mind onto the blank side of my school orientation form. It was frightfully accurate because he was starting to know me. He detailed how much I wanted things to work, where I wanted us to go on dates, and my plans to meet his entire family the week after Fête de la Musique. We didn't know the strain Fête de la Musique would put on our relationship yet. After our 3rd time going to a boîte de nuit called Le Raid, it became clear that Mateo was a regular. On Fête de la Musique, the bartenders comped his beers and poured liquor into them when he asked for something stronger. He saw his friends there who didn't act so friendly with him. I didn't know whether I was insecure that he had so many other options, or envied that he was getting the attention of which I had given up. I made him read the letter out loud, once slowly and then once like he would. Paris does this sinister thing that convinces you that you're happy in your relationship. The city of love upholds its facade, and so did I. How could I manage to be unhappy? What would I have to do in this life to not grow so tired? I met him organically in the city of love and was respected and cared about. My French was excelling, and somehow this wasn't enough. I was trying hard to fight the part of me that thought it was common sense to hang up wet towels to dry and to not use handfuls of my 35-euro conditioner. Still, I put us on display, and so did he. Matteo expressed how long he had been waiting for me, and I knew I'd been waiting for something like this my whole life. We looked so good together, why not show it off? We turned ourselves into an exhibition. This helped me reaffirm the legitimacy of the city of love, helped me to amend my qualms about my place in Paris. Look how good the pictures turned out. I talked about him in conversation class. We had fits of jealousy at clubs if one or the other looked too long in one direction. We made love with the windows open. I felt like art, and I will confidently say that this is Paris-specific. I felt like an indispensable facet of the city, like a tourist trap. I felt like a permanent installation. I knew, however, that I was curating what people saw, and the value of art can be deceiving. Loving Matteo turned me into a Parisian for a few weeks. I could fit in because we only spoke French, in public and in private. We doted on each other in French. We had explosive French fights. We people-watched at cafes. He showed me his Paris where spending money was not an option. It's funny though, my idea of the Parisian love story often involved a lot of restaurants and a lot of wine and the ability to pay cover charges at chic jazz clubs. I comped all the bills. He started wearing my clothes. He would make me dinner. We would watch Netflix with French dub and English subtitles. He liked to bring my t-shirts to his apartment and iron out their wrinkles and make jokes that he felt like a femme au foyer. It felt like we loved each other. It felt like I was in love in Paris. Ironically, saying I love you too early first sweeps you off of your feet and then quickly snuffs out your desire for more. I thought it would be different in Paris. It was certainly more intense, more picturesque, like a dream or a hallucination. But love smothered us and turned me into a person who I fucking hated. One morning I had had enough and said, "Je peux pas faire ça encore, lâche-moi, tu dois partir." And he cried, and that made me uncomfortable. It was raining that morning, and I hadn't slept well due to Matteo snoring. I still loved that I was living the dream of everyone I knew back home on social media, and that I was being subconsciously encouraged to fall deeper in love surrounded by this beautiful city and its urge to swallow people up. The days following our final fight transformed how I interacted with the city. A journal I wrote during a particularly lonely Parisian day reads, "Suddenly the metro gets dark and it starts moving too fast. The woman beside me weeps, and the louder the train gets, the louder she yells at her boyfriend. All that's on my mind is that I keep thinking some people in the street will speak English, and that they never do, and it's not comforting anymore to be learning French. I feel in motion. Now in this metro it feels like it's going too fast, and the tunnel goes dark, and I'm accelerating and I can't control my face. I think about how moments before I tried to board a metro too late and the doors dragged me into a woman on the way in. A man in a soccer jersey grabbed my shoulder and pulled me in, and all I could think to say was pardon, like 100 times, to the woman who I had shoved. I tried to catch her and inadvertently ended up clinging to her shoulders, just saying pardon. She didn't want me to touch her, and I realized that this was the longest fucking metro of my life. And how I had to get off at the next stop because I was so hot and my forehead had sheets of sweat, and my hands were shaking, and I had only eaten bread all day. And I thought about that I would rather cry and fight on the metro with a lover than be dragged on the metro because it goes silent when something is wrong, and I was so hot. I thought about Matteo and how I needed to get off the metro quick before I shook and sweat and thought myself to death. I was humbled. I sat next to this woman who cried, and I realized I didn't know any French at all, and I wanted to give her tissues, but all I was carrying in my too big bag was a camcorder, a phone, and my metro card. I understood her saying, "I hate you like this," and "let me live," but that was all, and my French seems to be getting worse the more I isolate. I made it home. I went straight to Le Soleil Levant for a glass of wine. I wrote this on my phone. It isn't Paris, it's fully me. Maybe I love Paris. Maybe we're in a fight right now. I sat at the cafe and I felt as if I were still in motion, and the glass of Bordeaux I drank on an empty stomach wasn't kicking in like I needed it to. This day got the best of me. It's not Paris. Millions of people have had an amazing day, and I was the unfortunate one who had gotten dragged behind a slow and oblivious family on the metro. I wish I hadn't touched her, and I recoiled once I realized I was just looking for her to tell me it was okay, and she didn't, and that's okay. But I feel more inspired to write than ever. Matteo struck a chord or pinched a nerve in me that made me want to write. I'm starting to feel the wine now. I feel that over the last 42 hours, Paris has chewed me up and spit me out, and I desire to be in the belly of the beast. End of journal. We had our own utopia. We didn't waste any time on the accelerated track. He wanted to marry me so I could stay in France. Crazy boy, but I must admit I thought about what would happen if I did. Paris urged me to stay with her, even if it was against my better judgment, or even if I had to sacrifice my freedom to gain permanent entry. He looked at the price of tickets to America over Christmas, too steep, and I researched more Berkeley programs to extend my visa, too late. To me, Paris is the city of love. Maybe not for you, but I came here with that loud little bug in my ear, whispering how good it would feel just to let go and give myself to someone. It is the city of love because I choose to believe that, not because Paris has some public reserve of affection for foreigners. We glamorize love in Paris like we glamorize smoking cigarettes. Both appear chic and in vogue, and both can be viewed like an accessory to your outfit. But cigarettes are fatal. No matter the propaganda, the film portrayals, the sex symbolism, just as love is love, Paris accelerates love. We want so badly to believe that Paris is the city of love that we make it true. We are in love with how a cigarette looks, but not the effect it has on our body. And we are in love with the idea of love in Paris, but go blind in asking ourselves what it is we're actually feeling. To smoke 1,000,000 cigarettes and die 1,000 deaths is like loving and ending up alone. The effect is unimportant. The image breaking away from the reality of things seems to be what people want to see. So Paris is the city of love, and cigarettes look like sex. But remember, it is Paris who you fall in love with, and cigarettes that stink. We created their image of chicness. There's no more love in Paris than in any other place, but the city itself facilitates more affection and lust and love because we prefer it that way. We create these images, and the belief in them keeps the fantasy alive. I had already convinced myself what would happen, and it did happen. Paris made me fall in love, made me, sickened me with love, and fattened me with it, caressed me with the inescapable idea that love doesn't get better than this, that everyone wants this. To be enveloped in warm French beauty, I wanted so badly to fall in love in Paris, and Paris numbed my reality and silenced the voice inside of me who didn't want to get hurt. Paris broke down my walls. When we fall in love in Paris, we really just fall in love with Paris. We become statues, we become proof of preconception, we become something of envy, something inevitable. Paris is so intoxicating that drinking it alone can drive you mad. We seek others' help to make this inebriating city a home, and it doesn't matter who they are as long as they play our games and help us hold on to Paris tightly. Love doesn't have to be undying. Love can be fleeting, hot. Love can gush, and it can dry up. And in Paris, the idea of love is reformulated. Here you can love someone for one night, for 1 month. It isn't quantified and scrutinized formally, and it was comforting to know that Mateo was going to be with me for the next 5 months, and I wouldn't have to be alone here. I fell in love with the idea of security in a brand new world. I fell in love with the idea that everything was going to plan. And now I must be alone in Paris, but I never lost my love for her, and it would be impossible now for me to let go of this city.
Paris, c'est la vie de l'amour.